Hi, I'm Dave Anthony, and we're doing the 2021-22 MJHL Playoff Breakdown for round number 1. Today, we're doing the Eastern Conference. We've got Jake Maurice from the Winnipeg Blues and Kevin Pauls from the Winkler Flyers. Guys, thanks for doing this today. Really excited to talk hockey. Jake, we'll start with you. The Winnipeg Blues haven't really been playing their best hockey of late, mainly due to injury. What does Winnipeg need to do against a Flyers team that's kind of built for the playoffs?
Well, the main thing they need to do first is just get their offense rolling again. You have to go all the way back to February 15th for the last time the Blues scored more than 2 goals in a game. And as you mentioned, a big part of that is missing Josiah Vanderhooft and Braden Foreman from their lineup. Vanderhooft will be ready to go for game 1. He's already skating outside of a non-contact jersey. He's a full member of practice. Foreman is on the ice, but he's still in the orange jersey. So not sure if he'll be ready to go on Friday in Winkler, but at the very least, he is very much a possibility to be in for the majority of this series. So that's going to fix a lot of the issues. But also the Blues, they need to have their bottom 6 rolling throughout this playoff, because to an extent, the stars of both teams, the Blues and the Flyers, they're going to cancel each other out with their contributions on the scoreboard. So a big part of this series is going to be who steps up from the lower parts of the lineup and contributes offense, whether that is in the bottom 6 or also getting more goals from the Blues back end. Tyler Teasdale had 5 for Winnipeg this season, but the rest of the Blues back end was really in the 2 to 1 goal range all throughout the year. Just not enough from them in the regular season. They contributed on the score sheet in terms of getting assists, but getting direct goals from them could also go a long way for the Blues.
Kevin, the Winkler Flyers have played very well since the Christmas break. They were kind of in a 2-3 battle, and then they just took off and ran away with second place. What makes the Flyers a strong team heading into game 1, round 1?
Well, they've, on the other hand, with their scoring, they've received a little bit more of a balanced attack up and down the lineup. They've seen a resurgence from Mike Svensson. Jackson Arpin's been very helpful on the front end as well. And of course, you have the number 1 scorer in the league with Justin Svensson, and not far behind Jaden McCarthy. They've been scoring at a really good pace. But a major contributor for that has been basically their success on the power play. They've got the number 2 ranked power play in the league, going against, the 4th best penalty kill. So there's something that's got to give there. And I think a real key for the Flyers, aside from, like Jake had mentioned before, with the help in scoring down the defense, I think that's also important with the Flyers, because it's very similar as far as everybody outside Trent Sambrook is concerned. It's, relatively balanced attack. And then Sambrook with 58 points this year, just incredible in the back end.
Jake, let's talk about the power play, because Winnipeg surprisingly has one of the worst power plays in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League.
The worst,
despite some of the biggest offensive weapons. Regular season's done now. Playoffs are a totally different animal. How does Winnipeg get rolling on the man advantage?
Well, you get the 2 guys back from injury and you get them into the lineup integrated as soon as you can. And then part of it is just making quicker decisions. Too many times the Blues, they'd get the puck. One of the Blues players would get the puck on their stick, and they'd just be taking too much time deciding where they wanted to move it. That gave the penalty killers time to track the eyes, figure out where the puck was going, intercept, and clear it down the ice. Or the Blues, they would take too much time. They wouldn't get enough chances on their power play, not chances for goals, and they wouldn't be able to build enough momentum and get something going for themselves off that. And Winkler, this is something I'm certain Kevin, we've talked about it quite a lot in the Flyers Blues games this season. The Flyers, they do take a lot of penalties, had the most penalty minutes in the league this year. So you're going to have power play opportunities against Winkler in the playoffs. But if you don't take advantage of them, then it doesn't matter. And especially in Centennial Arena, it can turn into a benefit for Winklers. They can use that to build momentum for themselves.
Kevin, it's not often that the Flyers maybe will be the underdog in the goaltending battle, but when you're going up against the Dawson Green, you're probably going to have a tender that needs to play up a level. How do you expect the Winkler Flyers goaltenders to face off against these Winnipeg Blues forwards?
Well, and that's kind of an interesting thing, because ending off the year, Malachi Clausen started seeing a couple more starts. So maybe they're perhaps rolling into the playoffs with the idea of going 1A, 1B, alternating starts. I'm not really sure what to expect there, but Malachi's played really well down the stretch. Dylan Milan, of course, getting a shutout in his final game against the Freeze. Of course, it was with minimal shots. But at the same point, he as far as I saw on MJHL.com today, he has a .907 save percentage with 2.83 goals against, which ranks him 4th in the league. So I think he can make the stops when called upon as well. So I think the Flyers should be relatively solid there.
All right, just a couple more before we get into a series prediction here, Jake. We just talked about the Flyers goaltending. Dawson Green is going to have to be good for the Winnipeg Blues to have a chance in this series. Do you think he's up for the task, and are the Blues defensively up to the task for what Winkler is going to bring?
Well, Green's absolutely up to the task. He's shown it all season long, finalist for goaltender of the year. Earlier in the season, for the first half of the year, he was far and away the best goalie in the league before Carson Cherepak and Will Hambley joined him in that discussion and eventually surpassed him, with Cherepak winning the award. So Green is definitely a goalie who can make as many stops as you need him to in a night. As for the Blues defense, they have, just like on the power play, it has to be quick decisions. There were a couple times, one against the Winkler Flyers in a game in Winnipeg, where just a rebound didn't get cleared fast enough. Winkler takes it away, puts it in the back of the net. Just simple routine stuff like that. You got to pick up your pace, just get it away over to the boards, out of the zone, whatever it takes. Even if you have to ice it, just get it out of there. Winnipeg in the playoffs, something that is true with all the teams actually this year in the playoffs, because there hasn't been playoffs for the past 2 years, really. There isn't a lot of experience on either of these teams playoff-wise, especially even the two coaching staffs. This will be their first trip to the playoffs for both of them. So everyone's going to need to get used to the speed of playoff hockey, and whichever team can get used to it first and really own it and transition and integrate it into their game plan, that's going to be the team that's going to take an early advantage in the series.
Excellent point, Jake. Kevin, Winkler earned the right to have home ice advantage, so game one is going to be in that Winkler Arena. That can be such a tough place to play when you're the opponent. Just talk about the importance of home ice and defending home ice for the Flyers and what it means to have that game in Winkler starting round one.
Yeah, I mean, especially coming off the lifting of restrictions the last couple of weeks, we were lucky enough to have a couple games there with, I think they surpassed 1,200 folks in the barn. So that's a lot of, enthusiastic Winkler fans that'll be there, and whichever Winnipeg fans obviously can make it to the game. And that's going to be a huge portion of the support for the Flyers. They're just going to have to mitigate, like we talked about earlier, their trips to the penalty box. Because, I mean, it's, emotions are flying. I'm sure everybody will be amped right up, and the key is going to be to stay disciplined, which Jake and I have discussed ad nauseum for the last portion of this season. It's been a real issue for the Flyers staying out of the box, and if they can at least keep their heads about them, and like you said, Dave, in front of a packed house, that's going to be a key to their success at home.
All right, guys, we'll wrap up here. Jake, we'll start with you. Give us a player from the Winnipeg Blues that you expect to have a big impact on the series, and give us a series prediction.
Well, I talked earlier about the Blues needing more scoring for the bottom/middle six, so I would look at Garrett Zizitko, 13 goals for himself, 25 points. Throughout the regular season, a solid contributor. He was pretty consistent, didn't go through a lot of long droughts or anything like that for himself for the most parts. But if they can get him scoring at a pretty good pace, get him chipping in when the Stars aren't quite rolling, that can be the difference between a win or a loss. And it's the playoffs. One win can change the series. And I'll stick with the Blues, but I think it's going to be a long series. I think they take it in 7.
All right, so Jake's got the Blues in 7. Kevin, give us an underrated hero and a series prediction.
Well, I think one of the big players to come up for the Flyers lately is indeed Mike Svensson. Kid's got a lot of skill, plays with a lot of weight in his game. He throws the body around. The key for him is going to be to stay out of the box and keep the head in the right place. And he's going to be a big driving force, like Jake said, middle of the roster scoring, because you have your big horses in Svensson, McCarthy, and you're obviously going to expect a lot out of Sambrook, but it's those middle guys, face-off guys, that are going to make the difference. I'm calling Winkler in 6.
Gentlemen, thank you both for the time today. Really appreciate the great insight, and cannot wait to see one of you guys down the road and potentially round number 2. Thanks for doing this.
It's going to be
looking forward to it
for sure.
Thank you.